It's Thursday again, and it's time for questions and answers. The main question today is on foods for the everyday man. Thanks for joining us today on Questions and Answers with James Townsend and Son. On the fried chicken episode, Faithful Reviews says, how were lemons preserved in the 1800s? Well, I would say, the quick answer to that is I don't believe they needed to preserve lemons in general for any great length of time. Most people probably used those lemons in season when they came in on the ships. The lemons would come into the stores, people would buy them and not necessarily save them for any great period of time. They probably bought them and pretty much used them right away. But today when we use lemons, we will squeeze out the lemon and then we'll throw it away. They didn't necessarily do that. That lemon peel was used much more in recipes in the 18th century, and they preserved the lemon peels. Definitely, they would candy those lemon peels so they would be able to use them much later. And you can still buy candied lemon peel today, but they would have done that to their own lemons instead of just wasting those. So preserving them, probably not so much. They would have used them right away. This one is on the campfire journey cakes. This is a chocolate cake. He says, can I make this if I replace the hominy with sweet corn? And he's making these little corn cake things, right? So sweet corn is not going to work in that recipe very well at all. Cornmeal will work in that recipe, and in fact, we have something very similar coming up probably in 3 to 4 weeks. It's a recipe called samp or samp cakes. So make sure to stay tuned for that one. So here's a couple of related questions. The first one is on the 1796 pound cake. It's by Aurora Borealis. He says, I'm glad we have electric mixers nowadays. A whole hour of whisking by hand seems like an impossible feat. And this one, which is on the latest recipe, this one, okay, I don't know if I can pronounce this one. Acevedo. We're going to try that. When you make these videos, do you actually do all the steps by hand, i.e. whisking for an hour, or grinding up almond paste in a mortar and pestle, or do you use modern equipment to save time? I was just wondering. I really enjoy these videos. Surprisingly, thank you for all the information and the entertainment. In both these situations, there are times when we try to do it exactly like the old way. So we understand what's going on with the recipe. But most of the time, if we understand what's going on, we really don't have the time to whisk these things up for an hour and then have like wrist surgery the next day. So we use modern equipment when we have to, especially for preparing for these videos, when in fact the result will be exactly the same, whether I do it by hand or I use modern equipment. But if I really want to know how it's working, I will try to do it by hand so that I understand the original recipe. Here are another couple of related questions. The first one is Alexandra Bishop. It's also on this latest episode. Is paste different than pastry? And then David Bradley down here says, did the original recipe use puff pastry? Yes, the original recipe calls for puff pastry, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, the original recipe calls for puff pastry. And in this upper question, the difference between paste and pastry. A pastry would be the finished product. But in the recipes, when they're talking about using a component to make a pie, say, it says use a paste. So it's talking about this paste of flour, water, eggs, whatever's in that particular crust. We might call it a crust today, but in the 18th century cookbooks, they called them a paste. So they had short pastes, puff pastes, they had standing crusts, so they had all these different kinds of things going on here. And puff pastry, yes, they definitely had puff pastry in the 18th century. There was even another question, why I used water to seal the puff paste instead of egg whites. In that case, I had water right there. Egg whites, I didn't want to waste another egg, so I just sealed it up with just regular water. And here are the main questions. This one is Ashrak 12, and this is on the scurvy episode. This is, what are the average everyday meals they would eat back in the 18th century? And then Bensky TV on the same episode says, hey, you guys should put together a video discussing the meals of commoners in the period. Discussing something like a plowman's lunch would be very interesting. So there's a lot of discourse that you can kind of dig up. You kind of have to feel around the edges to get this everyday man's meal information. But there's a really good cookbook. It's actually one that we sell. It's the Primitive Cookery Cookbook. The back end of this cookbook, and this cookbook is meant for not rich people. This primitive cookery means cookery for common everyday people, right? So in the back of this, there's a bill of fare that has 70 different dishes that will only cost you 2 cents or less. And he lists these out. And it is a good way of understanding what common people would expect to eat and what would be fine, what would be expected for just a single meal. And some of them are very, very primitive. Here we go. He says, you may take good wheat flour and water, make it into a pap, so just mix it together, and put it into bread and season it with salt. Or also bread with a glass of water. With any of these things, a man may live well. Or bread and butter and a glass of water or a pint of ale makes a good meal. Bread and cheese does the same with a pint of water. So he goes through all these just very, very simple meals that you might expect regular people in the 18th century to eat. There are a few things that kind of pop out interestingly in this list. Cheesecakes make a good food. He also calls for white pot to make a meal with, which we would consider just straight a dessert. I mean, that's all there is to it. There are other 18th century references to people that basically are subsisting on nothing but plain, simple flour-boiled puddings without any suet or any raisins in them or anything. So there's a lot of very, very simple food that very common people were eating in the 18th century. The same thing over and over again, every single day. Very, very simple and plain food. Most of the cooking that we do is actually sort of a little bit higher class than what a common person is going to see, at least day in, day out. And how about just a little housekeeping here at the end of this video? Here's one comment that I kind of want to respond to. This is Jacob E., and this is on the latest cooking episode that we've done. He says, he no longer responds to comments directly. I hope he hasn't gone straight corporate. That was the kind of the charm of his videos, the incorruptible feel of the channel. I kind of want to respond to this because, you know, we have so many videos and so many comments that there's just no possible way for me to respond to every comment. And it's getting harder because we have so many more comments that are happening right now on the channel. But I do still read each and every comment, and I try to answer ones when I need to. But I kind of rely on some of you guys out there to respond to some of these comments for me. And so many of you do point to videos that I've already done that answer the question, or you answer the question outright right there. So I want to thank everyone who helps me out in the comment section, answers those questions for me. There's just no way for me to do it all. Not only do we do all these videos, but I run a company besides with 30 employees, and I have to fix the computers and the washing machines and the sewing machines and figure out what new products are going to be. So I do a lot of work around here, and I can't spend every day in the comment section, but I love reading the comments, and I thank you so much for, you know, all the comments and the questions that come in. One other quick thing. We got some responses, and I'm not sure what's happening with YouTube. People don't necessarily get notification of when every new video comes out, and some people think that we only do Q&A questions now instead of doing cooking episodes. We still, each and every Monday, have a cooking episode that comes out. And every Thursday, we do this Q&A session. And on some Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, bonus material comes out. We have lots of historic site videos that will be coming out shortly. And who knows what else we're working on. We have a lot of projects in the works. So stay tuned for that. And if you're interested in this cooking videos, make sure to check on Friday or a Monday evening. You'll see those if you go and look for them. And the last little bit of housekeeping, this is a response on this latest cooking episode. This is David Evans. He says, I have never been so non-offended and so willing to hear a sales pitch as those given by James, I'm John, but that's okay, at the end of these wonderful videos. David, I really want to thank you for this. It's a real encouragement to us as I see comments like this. Really, it's amazing. It's reality that I can't do these videos for free, that they have to be supported in some way. And us being able to sell product and advertise product in these videos, that's how we are able to continue to make these videos. So thank you so much for these comments. I want to thank everyone out there for all your very, very encouraging comments. It's what keeps me going. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your great support. Thanks so much for watching. If you're a new viewer and you haven't subscribed, press the subscribe button up here. That'll take you to a spot where you can subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching.